Hey, it's Kevin the Visionary here, and I am here with Mr. Brandon Miller, better known as Carnivore B Mills. What's going on, man?
What's up, man? Pleasure to be here.
Yes. We've been trying to do this interview for a while now. Kept little hiccups, but we made it.
It happens. It happens.
So I want to jump right in to an interesting topic, and it's a pretty popular one. And the reason why I'm saying that is there's a lot of people who deal with some of the symptoms that you are dealing with.
Right.
And there's different reasons why we hear about IBS. And so you're young, man. you know what why do you think you dealt with IBS at your age? What's going on with that?
Well, I don't know if necessarily IBS has a timeline where it hits you. I think it's more about the symptoms of your gut microbiome and how that's going into place. I think, you know, as I mentioned in our other podcast, is like I was severely overweight, and being that overweight, you have to have a sugar addiction. But sugar addiction doesn't just cause, people to be heavy. It also causes a lot of autoimmune disorders. And, getting rid of the sugar and the plants, even the most harmless ones you would think of, like broccoli and Brussels sprouts, were ultimately what cured up my IBS. So I did the meat based keto for a long time. I did very well with it. I slept better. I felt better. I had great energy throughout the day, but the IBS was always constant. And it was truly the cause from fiber. That's what it was truly from. And as soon as I removed the fibrous vegetables, it went away completely. So I don't think it's a matter of age. I think it's more of the food quality.
So when you said you had a sugar addiction, what did that look like? Like
Well,
what
so I was 100 pounds heavier than I am now. Um, just to tell you, and you can't get that big without being addicted to sugar, and that means relying on sugar all day, every few hours, having some food that's very dense in carbohydrates, and your brain not being able to feel satiated for long periods of time. I tell someone if they can't fast for half the day, at least when they wake up, half the day, not eat. If you have a lot of trouble with that, there's a good chance you're insulin resistant. There's a good chance. And most people are insulin resistant. But also, the sugar addicts come into play as well, because there's a lot of companies that pay people to make their food addicting. And that's called the bliss point. We can get into that too. But when you're that big, you're addicted to sugar. It is what it is. That's the harmful truth. If you want to deny it, fine, whatever. But you can't get that big eating protein and fat.
Okay, so while we're there, let's talk about it. You mentioned it, right? So
Yeah.
you said companies put certain ingredients and they design, because that's really what it is, design certain foods to trick the brain and the
Right.
body into wanting something. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Right, exactly. That's called the bliss point. So, for example, Frito-Lay will hire people to sit in a laboratory all day. This is their job. They'll sit in a laboratory and they'll create these artificial foods that have the perfect taste, the perfect blend between fat, sugar, and salt. And that combination hits your brain, passes right through the cannabinoid receptors in your brain, and you are addicted. You're hit. Once you have one, you can't stop. And the companies know this. They're very smart about this. They even market it like that. When you have one, you can't stop. I hear that slogan all the time in commercials. And then you get to people that promote the portion control with those kind of foods and calorie counting with those kind of foods. So if you just have one bag of Fritos, it's whatever, 140 calories. But the
Mhm.
issue is you can never have one bag of Fritos. You just can't, because your brain's addicted. There's no satiety signals in those high ultra processed carbohydrate foods. So that's essentially what the bliss point is. That's what companies do. And they do it because they think it's healthy. They think we should eat. Absolutely not. They do it because of one reason only, and that's it's a dollar bill.
Cash. Yeah, so it's interesting, right? Because you have two spheres. You have the carb sphere, where you're eating the foods that you just mentioned, but they're not satiating, and you're hungry really fast. And then you have the plant fear sphere. I keep saying
Right.
fear. I guess you should be afraid, right? Fear. But you have the plant sphere where you're eating food, but it's not satiating. It's
Yeah.
not fulfilling. And it goes through your small intestine straight to your colon. And so you're hungry in a matter of 20, 30 minutes or whatever it is.
Right.
So that's a dangerous place to be because you're not giving the body the nutrients that it needs.
It's a mix of that and you're poisoning the body at the same time. So it's all goes in one direction or the other direction. Everything spirals into another. If you eat those kind of foods, you're more likely to eat that at a party. Then you're more likely to have it around the house. Then you're more likely for your family to have it around the house. And you are, by the time you know it, you're freaking addicted and your house is filled with these kind of foods. And Kraft and Frito-Lay, they got everything they ever wanted from it.
Yeah, no, it's interesting too because you have people with different genetic makeup, and you can see the correlation between the it's the exact same issues, but the bodies of different people get affected in different ways. It's really interesting, and so it's made up to be like, well, we don't know why you have this, or we don't know why you're dealing with this, and it's made to be like there's all these different causes, but it's really
Oh,
just
yeah.
a few issues.
People love to name the symptoms. I think doctors get a kick out of naming a different, disease or a bunch of symptoms that people get. But at the end of the day, they all root down to the same thing, and it's almost always food quality or environment. That's literally it. It goes down to all of those two things. If you put yourself in a bad environment, you're most likely also not having good quality of food as well. And the same is true the other way around. And people spend too much time naming diseases and not really figuring out the bottom of it. So I think that's what this community is all about.
Yeah, for sure. So, okay. So, why did you want to lose weight? Or was it just you wanted to fix your IBS?
Oh, no, no. So the IBS was way later in my journey. So the weight came off because of Kobe Bryant. I was very inspired by him and his mentality and everything he stood for. So that, the day he died really taught me that no matter who you are, no matter how rich, successful, famous you are, how much money you have, you could die tomorrow in a freak accident. And that's what happened. So it kind of shook me. It kind of, I was totally shook by it. I was like, whoa, that actually just happened. Like that could happen to me. So the next day I started exercising. I started running. I ran 9 to 10 miles a day every day from
What?
from
Wait,
Jan.
wait, 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 wait.
Yeah,
From all with the weight and everything, where you ran 9 to 10 miles.
it was a mix of walking and running to start. As the weight flew off, it was like almost straight running. I had a few breaks, but I would go down to a football field that was right behind my complex. It was always empty, and at 8 in the morning, I would run, and I would finish at around 12 p.m. Usually every single morning, and then I would have my one meal a day of whatever I wanted because I just ate less and moved more because that's all I knew. So in 8 months of doing that, the 100 pounds flew off. Everyone was like, wow, you look great. You look amazing. You must feel great. I told them I never felt worse in my entire life. Like every
Really?
night, every night losing weight was a struggle. Every night I was starving. I had sugar cravings, but I was so determined and so focused. I was like David Goggins, man. Seriously. Like I was like, nothing was going to stop me. My cravings wouldn't stop me. None of it. I wasn't sleeping well. I was doing everything wrong. I actually lost all my muscle. So part of the 100 pounds was muscle. Part of it was water. A lot of it was fat. However, I lost too much muscle. That was the one thing I wish I did was I wish I ate more animal protein and less crap. But I get into keto because I saw my grandparents lost a lot of weight. And I said, hey, you're not counting your calories. How could you have lost that much weight? I thought you had to starve yourself to lose weight. I thought it had to be a struggle. And they didn't struggle through it. They ate a lot of meat, fish, eggs, vegetables. So I tried it. I switched my macronutrients around. I had a ton of fat now. I had lowered my carbohydrates. All of a sudden, I was sleeping better. I was more satiated. I had way less cravings. And I thought everything was great. I still have my IBS. I thought that would never get fixed because, it's a syndrome. It's, essentially my doctor said you have to take this pill. Otherwise, you're not going to cure it. And then I heard about stories of people fixing their gut, fixing their IBS and IBD. And then I saw carnivore and I was like, wait, what if I just drop the veg? Like, do I really need this? And I researched for a long time about this and I decided to do it. After a week and a half, IBS completely gone, absolutely gone. It was
Wow.
it was the fiber, man. It was just straight fiber that caused the IBS. And I've experimented too. After being carnivore for a little bit now, I've had a period of a month or two where I've added some fruits in to see how I would do. I've
I
had a period
remember that.
I had a period a month where I added vegetables to see how I would do. So if I have a few pieces of broccoli or a few pieces of asparagus, immediately in the bathroom, right after, immediately. Like it hits me like within the hour. I'm in the bathroom all night. Fruit. Fruit's interesting. If I have the fibrous fruits, I'm in the bathroom, like the avocado. If I have the more just pure fructose kind of fruits or honey, I'm not affected in that way. I don't have the IBS from it. So if I have a cucumber and I get rid of the skin and the seeds, I don't have any problems. If I eat the skin and seeds of the fruit, I will still go to the bathroom. I'll still have those problems. I had IBS-D, by the way, so not very fun. However, too many problems came with the fructose. I piled on body fat very, very fast. And it all honestly felt like I was addicted to sugar again. And we see this in
Mm,
Paul Saladino, who is started with a little bit of fruit and then spiraled off. And I feel like I was going in that direction and I was gaining too much body fat too fast. So I decided to pull back on the fruit. And also, what would happen is when I would go overboard on the fruit and honey, I would have energy crashes. I would just feel horrible. I wouldn't feel good anymore. And I was having all the same symptoms as I did in the high carb diet until you realize that, fruit and candy and bread and oatmeal, your body doesn't know the difference between them. You know,
yep.
there might be some nutrients in fruit, but at the end of the day, I'm getting all my nutrients from meat, eggs, fats, steak, organs. That's all you need.
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned that because I saw when you had, were talking about, having the fruit in the diet, but I didn't really realize that that was the transition that was going on. But for me, I just had a conversation yesterday about this, and I can't relate to your struggle. I can't relate to anybody who has weight issues because I've never had that. I've never had to deal with that.
Yeah.
And for me, it's a little bit of, I don't want to say a disappointment, right? Some people might say, dude, you're lucky. You don't have to worry about that. But for me, I've been slim all my life.
Oh
And
yeah, there's definitely another side of it for sure. It's not always the heavy kid. I've talked to a lot of people that have struggled putting on muscle, and they feel just as bad.
yeah. And, it's like I saw coming up when I was, 19, 20, 21, all my friends, we were the same size. And then they had kids or whatever. And then they just put on weight. And I'm like, dude, I had my son. What's up? Like, why can't I put on some weight? And it's something that always plays in the back of my mind. It's like, I have to work so hard just to gain 1 pound. It's like, man, and all you have to do is eat some fruit and you put on some weight. And
Oh yeah, no doubt, no
it's
doubt.
like,
Now I
man,
think I think that it makes sense when you think about it. Like, first of all, I think where you are really determines not your ability to eat fruit, but sort of almost how much you can handle. There's a lot into epigenetics. So if you look at Paul Saladino and how close he is to the equator, I think there's really something behind that. I think that the amount of daylight that's there, I think he can get away with consuming more carbohydrates than the average person that's in New York, where I am. It's snowy here. It's not great weather. You don't go outside and find pineapple. It's just not there. So for us to be consuming that, it just doesn't make any sense. If we look at when fruit was consumed, it was consumed seasonally, probably at the end of the summer, where it was most of the fruit was found, ancestrally speaking. And we did use it to gain body fat for the winter when it got cold and when we couldn't find food. Bears give themselves type 2 diabetes every winter in order to hibernate and use their stored body fat as energy. So I think it really says something about how much fruit we can handle. I think everybody's different, but I genuinely do believe that fruit is meant to be had seasonally, and most people do best without it.
yeah, for sure. I can eat fruit, every now and then, and it doesn't bother me. like I said before, like a lot of people struggle and deal or end up binge eating. There's a few people that I've spoken to that have that issue where they'll cut something out and they'll say, well, I've been fine for a month or two or however long it is, I'll just have this one. And just like that, it's like a trigger. They go from having the one, and before they know it, they spiraled all the way back down to where they were, up or whatever, however
Yep.
you want to look at it. And it's like, man, um, so it's an interesting concept. So
Yeah.
now,
If you don't think that fruit and honey can cause sugar cravings, it absolutely can cause sugar cravings. Definitely.
yep. So you saw Kobe Bryant, you had an epiphany, and you went down the road. You were determined to do uh, improve your health, lose weight. Now, in all of that, did you really think it was possible? Because you've never had that experience before. Did you really think, excuse me, that was possible?
Absolutely not. I didn't think that it was possible for me to see my abs. I never thought. I thought that I was just predisposed to be fat, and obviously it's not true. But society kind of makes everything realistic and makes you think that everything is okay when in reality I was at serious risk. Like I was pre-diabetic. Like I was at risk for a heart attack. No issue at at 20 at 18, 19, I was like up to 260 pounds. So, I mean, I was always the heavier kid my whole life. So I never thought it was possible to lose that weight. But all I did was I looked up online how to lose weight. The first thing, unfortunately, that comes up is calories in, calories out. So I took that and ran and literally ran my muscle to the floor. And, the last few years I've been working on building that back up.
Wow. So now you're on a carnivore diet.
Yep.
How,
Now I do
how were
strict.
you? So what was that like? How were you introduced to the carnivore diet? Was it
Yeah.
something that you saw and was like, "This is crazy," and somebody talked to you about it? Like, what was that? How did that happen?
Yeah, so like I said, I went from keto to carnivore, like a lot of people do, and I saw Joe Rogan, Michaela Peterson, all the big names talk about it and how it healed their gut and inflammation. And I was like, maybe I should just try and get rid of the vegetables. Let's see what happens. I didn't know if they were necessary. I did it. The IBS went away. Like I said, a week and a half it took. And I get this question all the time, like, how long is it going to take for my IBS to go away, or how long is it going to take for me to lose 20 pounds? Or as long as it takes. That's the answer. Is as long as it takes. I can't answer these questions anymore because I don't know you and I don't know your body 100%. Only you do. So don't worry about how long something takes to heal. By the way, just follow the lifestyle. It will go away. Everything will be natural. So I was a big calorie counter too. So I was doing keto and then I did carnivore. And I realized that, people say in carnivore, you don't have to count anything or track anything. It should be simple. It should be natural. So I didn't do that. I gained 20 pounds within the first few weeks. Like I said, my IBS went away. I had no IBS. But because I was under caloric restriction for almost 3 years of counting
Your
my
body
calories,
was hungry.
I was starving. When I got a taste of that butter and the red meat and the egg yolks, I could not stop. I was eating a lot of food a day. I'm talking like 30 eggs a day, plus 2, 3, 4 pounds of meat a day. Like a lot of food every single day, piling on the butter. And over a period of 6 or 7 months, the weight flew right back off. So I think it's something to mention for sure. Of not tracking, by the way, I totally stopped the tracking, and
Yeah.
I realized that the tracking makes absolutely no sense whatsoever when you're eating food from nature. The easiest way to look at it is to look in nature, and I do this with so many other things. But when you take a look in nature, you don't see any animals that are morbidly obese or have
Mhm.
diabetes. It doesn't happen until you domesticate them and then you feed them the food that gives them that. So I realized maybe I should just eat a natural diet until I'm full. Paul Saladino got me on the bandwagon of vegetables aren't good for us like we might, think they are.
Right.
So, or as good for us. And he kind of got me to follow that. And that's why I was really curious about the fruit, but the fruit didn't work out for me. But carnivore really did. So I've been doing this for a while now. And what's it called? The the weight flew off again in the 6-7 months. I currently do carnivore with no dairy because I find that dairy helps me gain a lot of weight. So I see if somebody's struggling to gain weight, I recommend them to have lots of dairy. I don't even use butter anymore. I just cook in either I use the end of the ribeye fat to cook in. I render that, or I cook in
Wow.
like beef tallow, and that's what I'll use to cook a
So you
lot of.
do no butter.
I don't do any butter, no, just because I just don't like to pile on the dairy at all. I do right now. I do carnivore with no dairy, and
Okay.
I'll do dairy like on the holidays, like every few months. I'll do a little like my carnivore ice cream, or I'll have like a treat, like a carnivore friendly treat or whatever. Like around the holidays, while everybody's eating their crap, I'll eat the heavy cream and that kind of stuff. So not that I don't do it, but 99% of the time I'm not doing it.
Okay. And see, it's interesting that, for most people, you have to be able to learn yourself, learn your body, listen to your body, because it'll tell you what's going on. And, you mentioned that when you first went carnivore, a lot of the weight came back on and you were just consuming, consuming, consuming. One thing I learned about, the human anatomy, the body is very intelligent. And when you fast or when you do calorie counting and stuff, you're limiting what the body can consume, but you're also limiting what the body can store. And most
Right.
people never think about that. The body actually stores food for minerals, vitamins, and different things for later use for the times when you're hungry, the times when it's not there readily available. And then it takes from that. So what happens is when you calorie count and you don't eat enough food, you're actually hurting yourself because that's why the body starts to take away the muscle and take away the minerals and the nutrients from itself
Yeah.
because now it's in starvation mode.
By the way, I
So
should mention something. I was doing calorie counting for a little bit. I've kind of eyeballed what I do now on carnivore. I don't count to the dime. I don't count anymore. But I get asked a lot: is how many calories do you eat a day? Like it actually matters. But I get asked the question, and I'm eating around 4,000 calories a day. And I'm not gaining a single pound. I can't gain any weight. If I add a little bit of dairy to my day, I'll gain weight right away. If I was eating 2,000 calories a few years ago of a high carbohydrate diet and I ate 2,500, I would gain a ton of weight very fast. So I think it's very important to understand that the food you put in your body affects your metabolism greatly. And I'm
absolutely.
not a believer in the calorie counting anymore. I mean, you have to think about it. If you're eating processed chips, you're probably going to lay down on the couch and take a nap after. If you're eating, salmon and eggs, like you're probably going to go outside and be energetic and do something valuable and start moving. Like you just move without thinking about it.
Yeah, and then something that you really have to keep in mind is that the body uses only two sources for energy. It's either carbs or fat. There's and most people don't think about that. So if you're consuming a bunch of carbs all day, yeah, you'll have that quick burst of energy, but it's not a lasting energy. Whereas if you're on a carnivore diet or if you're on a meat-based diet, you have to consume a lot of fat because that's where your energy is coming from. So once you cut
Yeah.
the carbs out, you got to understand that.
Yeah, I take a moderate fat approach to this because I like to stay fairly lean. What a lot of people don't understand too is if you overconsume fats, you will gain body fat because you're storing energy that's not used. That's
Correct.
bottom line. That's how it works. So by limiting the dairy, I'm able to eat as much meat and eggs as I'd like and not store body fat. And that's why I do that. And I am not a fan of it. Like it will break through some weight loss plateaus. So if you think you've tried everything, maybe try switching to animal fats instead, tallow instead of butter to be more specific. Yeah, definitely, I definitely agree. And the same things for under eating. Now you have to know a ballpark of where you're at. Everybody's really different with this, with their ratios of fat to protein. I'm a personal trainer now. I'm super big into working out, into weightlifting, and to growing muscle. So I shoot for around 1 gram per pound of body weight of protein a day, which naturally puts me at a higher protein ratio to fat. And I feel great. And I've done high fat and I didn't feel as good. But I do know people that did high fat and they did great. So you have to experiment. Definitely have to experiment with it. I'm not afraid of not being in ketosis all the time. I don't necessarily benefit from staying in ketosis 100% or doing 80-20 carnivore because I like the aspect of a higher protein carnivore diet. A lot of people, especially bigger people, can use their own body fat as energy if it comes down to it.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. So you make a lot of content. What's your goal with, with the content that you put out? Like what are you trying to accomplish with that?
Yeah, so man, I can't tell you the amount of DMs I get all the time of people that I don't even know who come to me and they're like, man, I love your page and inspired me to get started, and I cured my IBS, or I cured my arthritis, or I lost 50 pounds because of you. And I'm like, wow, that's like the best feeling to wake up to those messages. It's really to do that. It's to wake people up. It's to get them to understand that, pills won't fix the root. And when I heal somebody without really talking to them, it's like the coolest thing to me. So that's why I think social media can actually be pretty powerful. You just got to have the right mindset about it. So that's my goal, is to really wake as many people up to this lifestyle as possible, to wake them up to how toxic modern society can be in every aspect,
Mm-hmm.
and to heal diseases and weight loss and all these benefits to people that they didn't think was possible themselves, and to inspire really, and to be a source of motivation and inspiration.
Okay, yeah, that's awesome, man. I feel the same way. When
Yeah,
you make stuff and you get responses to them, or even the negative ones, because I get a lot of negative
I get that too. I get
comments
that too.
also. But you know that at least they're paying attention, because they might circle back around, or they might run into some health issues. And this is what I think about, right?
You had that.
Somebody might have a problem with something, yeah, something you said today, but then 2 months from now, they might have a health issue and they might say, you know what? I remember when Brandon said this. Let me go back to his page, or let me DM him and ask him, hey, I wasn't struggling with this before, but now I am. What do
Yeah,
you think?
yeah. I haven't had one of those yet. I hope to, but I never had somebody that was hating on my page or whatever, and they came back and they're like, wow, it actually worked. But I just, don't you love those messages that you get with people that are like, I love your page. I lost 20 pounds because of you. Like, isn't that so sick? Like,
It
isn't that
is.
really here? That's
It
not,
is.
you impacted somebody's life without even doing anything. You just shared your information that you know and love. That's the thing too. I try not to pressure people. Like, I have a very solid routine. I have a lot of healthy habits, but I didn't do it all in once. Like, I switched my water filter, started reading more. Most of the time, I wear blue light glasses. I have red lights to calm me down after sunset so I can sleep better. I stay strict zero carb now. I stopped playing video games. I did all these healthy habits. I sauna, but it didn't come in one day. And I think that's important to realize, is that it doesn't just show up in one day. You don't just get healthy in one day. It doesn't happen like that. Same thing with getting unhealthy. It takes years and years of small habits building
Mhm.
up to get to the way that I am now today, to have a solid routine intact. I think people try and jump into this. But I get asked all the time what brands I use, you know, what my routine is, what I eat in a day. Like, you know, just build up the small healthy habits. Focus on nutrition first. That's where it's going to come from. Focus on, probably a lot of people's goal is to build lean muscle. So focus on that too. And the rest will come in hand. You'll start enjoying the other stuff as soon as you go carnivore. It opens your eyes to a world of holistic health that you didn't even know was there.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Um, so are you currently still struggling with anything health wise, or has everything pretty much that you were dealing with totally gone?
So everything is gone. I feel unbelievable. I do have these things that pop up that I didn't even think about, that just kind of show up the longer I've been doing this lifestyle. For example, like smell. Like, after a hard workout a few years ago, I always had to wear deodorant. Now I don't. Now I don't smell whatsoever. I have no body odor whatsoever. And then I thought, hey, maybe what if I didn't shampoo for a little bit? What would happen? And I haven't shampooed in like 8 months. I haven't used anything. What if I don't use conditioner or body wash? Like, what if I just get the toxic products out of my life? What if I start cleaning with something else, like vinegar or something natural? And these little things just kind of pop up in your life, and you don't even think about it. Like last week, I on my phone case, I just thought about like nobody thinks about this stuff, but the more you do this, I thought about on my phone case, like, hey, I'm rubbing plastic all day on the back of my phone case. Maybe I should get something natural. So I got a leather one, and it just comes to my head. I don't even think about this stuff. Those changes will come. It just takes some time. And like I said, I think that diet is the core change that leads to all the other things.
Definitely. You know, coming from my background, being, melanated, black, whatever you want to call me, right? And I literally was just talking to somebody about this yesterday because they had some issues with some kind of racism type stuff going on, and they wanted my opinion because they didn't really understand it. And where I'm going with this is coming from my background, I, was in the plant-based community. And in the plant-based community, it's a lot of things about spirituality and, being connected with yourself and with the earth and with, all of this type of stuff, right? And how when you fast and when you detox and when you eat plants, your body is more alive and more spiritual. Dude, since I went carnivore, I feel more connected and more spiritual,
Oh
more everything
yeah. Oh
than I've
yeah.
ever been in my entire life.
100%. I practice grounding all the time when it's nice out, when I'm able to get my feet in the ground. Like I will wear no, obviously you don't wear shoes and socks to the beach. That's a good way to do it. But like if I go to a park, like I will just like, I'll just walk around without my, like, I sound like a fucking weirdo, but
Hey,
no, I'm seriously ground. Like I'll go in my backyard and I'll just like take out a towel, or I'll just sit on the grass and I'll just put my feet in nature. And you don't have to have any sort of diet to do this. Like you just can pick up this habit naturally. You know, I think that the plant-based community, um, I think they got gut health backwards. I think that's the biggest thing I hear is, hey, you want to fix your gut? Like, do you want a better gut? If anybody says something like that, like, and they're selling you a product, it's such BS. It's such garbage. We don't know everything about the microbiome. We have a long way to go before we know everything about the microbiome. Years and years of research still has to be done. So if somebody's selling you something about gut health, throw it in the garbage. It won't help your gut health. How about a natural diet with foods that don't inflame the body, and foods that your body knows how to process and handle? Unfortunately, there's people who take gut health the wrong way. They see it and they go right to plants, when in reality it should be fat from nature.
correct. Yeah, no, definitely. Because, and that's another thing too, which I had to learn, you know, is that now when I speak about something, I know what I'm talking about, right? I don't really bring up any topics like I used to or talk about something that I heard somebody say.
Yeah.
Now I've spent, you know, multiple days or multiple hours looking at multiple different sources, multiple different ideologies or biases that I like to call them, because a lot of it is bias
Yeah.
research.
Yeah.
Just looking at different opinions, and a lot of things that's being pushed because most people don't understand. There's a total difference between the foods that get absorbed by your small intestines and the foods that get absorbed or broken down by the colon.
Right.
And if you just think about that from a logical perspective and you understand that the small intestines is responsible for nutrient absorption and the colon is responsible for elimination,
How
that's
about
a
this?
simple
How
simple
about this?
logic.
You can go ask any plant-based person that shoves a lot of vegetables down their throat how many times they use the bathroom a day. For number two, it's probably going to be 3, 4, maybe 5. Some people that go really heavy on the fiber. And you could ask a carnivore how many times they use the bathroom a day, and it's most likely going to be 0, or every other day or every few
Every
days.
few days.
I'm at the point where it's every 3 or 4 days. And it really goes to show, let's go look in nature of when we had to stimulate a hunt. If we were out all day in nature pooping, we would get nothing done. It's funny. We would get nothing done if we had to use the bathroom 4 or 5 times a day and it was a mess. How about if we went once every few days, it was a little nothing, and we could actually be successful as a tribe? That's something I love to compare it to. You don't see tribes going to the bathroom 4 or 5 times a day. It just doesn't happen. There would be
Right.
just too much.
And not
You know,
only that, they're also eating all day. If they were eating all day and pooping
too,
all day, you
that
couldn't
too.
get nothing done.
Exactly. 100% right. 100%.
Yeah, I did a live a few months ago with a guy that's in the plant-based community, and I didn't notice it because when you're in the middle of something, you're not really paying attention to everything. You're focusing on the actual interview, right? And somebody commented, they said, "Man, this guy has been eating the whole interview."
Yeah.
And I
No,
didn't notice it, right? So like he kept going to the refrigerator, getting stuff out the fridge. He's grabbing,
yeah.
nuts and fruit. And I was like, wow. When I went back and looked at it, I was like, he really has been eating the entire interview because he was hungry.
You deprive yourself, you're hungry. It's like you know what gorillas do, right?
They eat all day.
That's it. We're not gorillas though, unfortunately. We have, almost nothing in common with the
Right.
gorillas.
So, in I'm gonna wrap this up. And so, in closing, if you met somebody or if you're in a conversation with a person who's thinking about going on a plant-based or vegan diet, what would be your message to them? What would you say to them?
I don't force anybody to go one way or another way. If it's someone I truly deeply care about, that's a different story. If it's just a regular dude who's like, I'm gonna go plant, like, go for it. You'll find your way back to me anyway. But if it's,
What if he was asking your advice? He said,
okay,
"Hey,
yeah.
listen." It's an innocent. They're asking innocently, like, "Hey, listen.
Someone who
I've been looking at this."
if someone's genuinely concerned about the lifestyle I do and wants to go to plant-based, I think the easiest way to do it is to break down the nutrient profile or to tell them the most toxic foods, because the most toxic foods are all on a plant-based diet. So first of all, you got seed oils. Second of all, you have grains. Third, you have all processed sugar. And that all makes up a plant-based diet. You can absolutely be plant-based with that. I think the easiest way to say it is there are vegan Oreos. You can have Oreos on a vegan diet, but you can't have that kind of stuff on a meat-based diet. So if that doesn't really show anything to them, and then what if they say, oh, what about a whole foods plant-based diet? It's absolutely better. Don't get me wrong. But how about your brain? And how about your brain being made of cholesterol and saturated fat? Where are you going to find that from in the plant kingdom? Where are you going to find creatine from in the plant kingdom? Where's taurine, carnitine, usable omega-3s, usable amino acids? They're not there. You need EPA, you need DHA. They're not present in a plant kingdom. And just that alone should be enough for somebody to say, okay, maybe I do need meat in my diet.
Now, what about a person who is thinking about a carnivore diet? They're either currently on a plant-based diet or they're on no diet, but they're thinking about a carnivore diet. What would be your advice to them?
I think it would be the best way to go. Obviously, I mean, as a carnivore influencer, you're not going to hear another answer from me. But I think that the real reason to do this is because you want the least amount of inflammation in your body and you want to feel your absolute best. The other thing I can share is that I've never ran into a long-term carnivore who's been doing this for a few years, or a long-term ketovore, as a matter of fact, that's had gout, heart disease, cancer, or Alzheimer's. Never, ever heard of that kind of story. And I hear it every day in plant world about how somebody has another issue. So I think it's the least toxic and the most anti-inflammatory way to live. So that's why I would recommend that to someone.
Good answer. Good answer. I'm biased, so good answer.
I'm biased too. But I like to say to people, if the vegan plant-based diet was the best, I would be promoting it. I would be on it. I would tell you to do it. I promise. I totally would. You've tried it. I've tried it for a very short period before I hated myself. But we know how it is. You know how it
Yep.
is.
Yep,
So if
I've tried it
there's
for a
anything
a long
that's
time, and it starts off great. Everybody's like, "Oh yeah, the plant, I have so much energy." I said the same thing, and then you start to spiral, wondering what's really going on because you're not getting the nutrients that
oh,
you
ready,
need.
ready. How about that? 84% of the people that are vegan, vegetarian eventually go back to eating red meat. How about that fact? That's unfortunate. You don't
I
hear
can
a lot of
believe it.
carnivores going back.
Right, I can believe that. That's the highest statistics, which it makes sense. It makes a lot of sense.
That's really what you need to say to somebody. How about that? That it's not sustainable.
Right. Well, Brandon, I really appreciate you taking the time to chat and share your story. So if someone's watching this video and they have never met you before or seen you before, how can and they wanted to get in contact with you? What's a good way for them to get in contact with you? What platform are you on?
Usually Instagram's the best way. I'm the most active there. So you could DM me. I try and read all of my DMs when I can. You could find me at Carnivore B Mills. Carnivore BMILLZ. That's on Instagram. And from there, you can see everything. If you click the link in my bio, it shows up with my podcast, with my YouTube, all that good stuff. And if you wanted to just search me on YouTube or Spotify or Apple Podcasts, you could find me at The Primal Side. So that's where everything is that I do. My Instagram, I post a lot of holistic content like swaps you can make around the house or healthy habits, or I post stuff about the carnivore diet too. So you could find me and reach out to me there.
Okay, sounds good. Well, I really appreciate you, taking the time, like I said, to chat and share your story. And I will talk to you soon. Have a good one.
Or brother, it was a pleasure.
All right.